We have a full board of safety absent, Bob Conforti, who recently passed away. For the record, I should get this on first. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Public Safety. Today is Wednesday, August 5th, 2020. We are in the City Hall auditorium. And before we begin this meeting, I'd like to ask the members to stand to pledge the flag and then remain standing for a moment of silence for them.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And knock over all of these. Sorry in advance. If I get one of these, I think they all go down like dominoes. So item number 1 on our agenda this evening is I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting, which was held on July 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Benedetto.
Second.
And is that Commissioner Bingham? Are there questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or any abstentions? One abstention for the record would be Commissioner Battle. Right. Item 2. I will entertain a motion to accept Fire Chief Tyler's reports.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Benedetto, Commissioner McElroy. Questions on the reports?
Chief, you just talk about the COVID response and where we're standing now in Victor and Torrington.
Yeah, so we continue to be impacted by COVID. I would say locally, the state of Connecticut and locally, our numbers really are trending positive. We are seeing low positivity rates on the COVID testing that is being done, and we've seen an increase in the number of tests that have been done. Hospitalizations are low, so we still know there's still indications and there is still COVID within the community, but we are making great progress and those steps are being effective. So we do continue to operate under that heightened situational awareness. We still are, encouraging and knowing that we need to maintain our social distancing, mask wearing, and taking those appropriate precautions to continue to tamp down the spread of COVID within our community. Obviously, we do keep an eye on our whole nation, and everyone sees the trending that's happening across the country, and the hope is that we can continue, if we continue appropriate measures, the hope is that we can prevent a second wave coming here and then sort of continue that numbers being where they're at and sort of keeping those numbers low up until such time that a vaccine or other treatments are available. We don't know where that's going to go. We are response-wise. I know I won't speak for Chief Baldwin, but response-wise, we're back to a much more normal response profile, but we still are doing heightened PPE when appropriate based upon indications and situational awareness. Obviously, the big thing right now is the long-term recovery of trying to get everything reopened. The city's been very active and trying to be, I think they've been very proactive and trying to make great steps to support our community in that long-term recovery. It's going to be a big challenge. A big part of that's going to be our schools, and we know they're dealing with the changing guidance as we have been throughout this whole thing. I don't envy their task or what they have before them. I'm trying to sort of plot that path, but we continue to support their efforts and work together in that process.
How about testing for firefighters and police officers? They tested on a regular basis?
I'm not doing any surveillance tests right now. It's based upon if we have an exposure or we have a situation with that would cause an increased. We had an exposure or something where we have to track someone. We haven't had a difficult time getting those individuals tested and getting those results. There's a couple hiccups, but our results have been fairly timely. But I'm not doing blanket surveillance testing at this point. That testing really is focused community-wide. We're trying to focus that on those vulnerable populations, surveillance testing, and people that are symptomatic. But our testing numbers per 100,000 are fairly good. I think we're testing about 1,600 people per 100,000, which they're still working on ramping up our testing, but those are respectable testing numbers to give the area health district some comfort in sort of tracking what's going on within our community.
Thank you.
Chief, as you and I just discussed, as we discussed a few weeks ago about the fire drills and whatnot, Chief Allen, you and I discussed as well about the active shooter and bomb threats as well. This was raised by one of my neighbors who's a kindergarten teacher about what the new protocols would be in place about social distancing as you're doing the fire drills along those lines. And I mean, just wanted to get your response on the record if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even before COVID, we were very active. Both our departments were active, working with the schools to coordinate and make those emergency action drills as meaningful and beneficial to the staff and the students there. We'll continue to do that with COVID. Obviously, with the COVID situation, those drills and those activities are going to be based upon what's going on with the school, what model they're in, whether they're in a all distance learning, obviously sort of negates that need, hybrid or full in person. We still don't have 100% guidance from the state as far as what their requirements are going to be for this year. But we will continue to work with the Board of Education and the schools to make sure that we're there to support them and make sure that those drills are conducted as required. And I know this is on their radar. They are working through that. We have reached out to them, and they know that we're here. When they get to the point where they're more finalized of what they're going to have to do and what they need to do, we'll be there to support them. At this point, I think it's a little. First we got to figure out where the kids are going to be and get them into school, and then we can do whatever we have to do to make that other part done. In no situation would we create a drill situation, no different than any of the other drills. We're not going to do a drill for safety that's going to compromise their safety or the safety of the staff.
Yes. No, my concern is just as we get closer and closer to the start of the school year, that the state is just lagging behind and not providing some insights of what needs to be happening. I know you guys are well ahead of the game, so thank you.
Yeah, and on that, I mean, we have the year to do it, so I'm confident that we'd be able to get, work with the schools to make sure that whatever needs to get done within the calendar year would be complete.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner McCarthy, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about your very slow, boring day that you had yesterday at Water Street. Just a quick question we touched on a minute ago. Is there really very much you can really do other than go to all the calls and then report back to perhaps to Eversource or the appropriate
Yeah, so
people,
it's been a busy couple days, not just for my department, for the police department and all public safety within Torrington in general, Department of Public Health or Department of Public Works. We did in 3 hours, we did about 96 calls for service in the fire department. The majority of those obviously were due to trees down or power lines down. There were a couple motor vehicle accidents and activated alarms during that time. During that period, there was over 30 runs within a 1 hour period. So during that time, the only thing we can really do in a lot of those situations is respond out, cordon off the area, and make sure there's not an immediate hazard or fire present, and then make notification to Eversource and get them out. When we get into a storm of this magnitude, obviously, typically a lot of these calls, Eversource would be responding in an immediate fashion to resolve that one isolated tree down or power line down. That wasn't the case yesterday. There was widespread impact throughout the entire region. So we were coordinating with Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security and our regional partners. The state activated their EOC, and we were coordinating those activities and functions. But a lot of those calls were a lot of our black roads. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get opened up. We still have this afternoon. We still had almost 70 roads blocked that were impassable. Department of Public Works was out yesterday, opening any of roads that they could open up that didn't involve power lines or that they could safely open up has been opened up. Right now, as of just recently, we do now have 2 CL or Eversource crews in Torrington, and we do have Department of Public Works crews matched up with them so that Eversource can de-energize and Department of Public Works can get the roads cleared and open. We're not dealing with any debris management at this point. We're literally focused on getting the roads open and passable up for our entire community. Right now, those Eversource crews are not restoring power. They're just making the power lines that are there safe. Restoration efforts haven't started, and that's not just in Torrington. That's pretty much the entire region. Their focus right now is getting out to all the communities and getting all the roads open and getting the power lines that are down safeguarded so that when they start restoring service, it doesn't cause them added safety. So restoration efforts haven't started. We're happy to see crews in there today. We've been strongly advocating with Eversource to make sure our needs in our community is addressed. And this evening, that's a little bit of progress getting those 2 crews in. And we'll continue working through. Our hope is within the next 24 or 36 hours that we can get all the roadways opened and hopefully Eversource is able to get to a position where they start working on restoring efforts. I do think we need to be prepared. I know I'm a pessimist, so I'm preparing for a longer term outage, but I think we need to be prepared for a longer duration outage. This isn't a situation where we're gonna have power restored in the next 24 to 48 hours. It's probably gonna be a longer window than that.
Today, the only place I've ever heard complaints about anything was 183. Is that our, I don't want to say our problem, that's not the real issue, but it's a state highway, so how does that all play? Where the responsibilities to who does what, and I know we're not going to ignore it, but at the same time.
So, it is a state road. We have put that on our list, and that's identified. Regardless of whether it's a state road or not, we identified all of our block roads. We had all our people out doing a preliminary damage assessment to just try to track and locate any block roads or trees that weren't identified last night. Obviously, there's always going to be stuff that slips through the crack. Our goal today was to try to get a better picture of what's going on. That is on the list. The Eversource makes safe crews that are going out to open up the roadways. Their focus is on priorities, and those major thoroughfares are their initial priorities. So hopefully that will be resolved. It would be great if it was being resolved during this meeting, but that is one of the places that's been identified and on the list for priorities.
My understanding is there is a crew out there, so yeah, one crew out there, so they are obviously aware of it.
So, but we are utilizing our Department of Public Works crew to help just get that road open. We're going to be dealing with debris management for an extended period of time. So the first step is get the roads open and then deal with that debris management component. Public Works is already we're trying to get ahead of the curve, so they're working on that debris management plan right now. As far as what that's going to look like. Obviously, our first focus is the debris management within the public roads and getting the roads up and running and moving through there.
What on the roads, we just talked about road management with the stop signs. Today, got a lot of complaints by Wendy's, Walmart intersection, Top Kennedy Drive, pretty much that area. And they're saying there's no stop signs. And people, I don't think either they don't realize what they have to do at a red light, but I think they should all stop. But people don't.
By statute, even if the traffic light is not in operation, motorists are required to stop at the intersection and grant the right of way to vehicles that are approaching. We did make contact with state DOT regarding the placement of stop signs at these intersections. Because they are state routes and state roads, it's DOT's responsibility to make sure that stop signs are placed in those positions. We do not have, unfortunately, a significant number of portable stop signs on the city level. Our intent was to utilize our city resources at these intersections, but we did not have that. And as we deal with after action incident report concerning this event, we will be discussing the need for additional stop signs. Those stop signs would more be utilized on the city roads. I mean, for example, like Kennedy Drive or one of those roads where we would put those stop signs out, not on the state highways. But the state DOT was contacted concerning that, and I believe they're as overwhelmed as everybody else as a result of this incident. So I don't believe they had the opportunity to get any signs out there.
Yeah, that intersection at Walmart is very, that artery there, it's a tough intersection. I came through there tonight and you got 7 lanes trying to turn, you know.
And we did do an additional resource request to get portable stop signs in. That's the process that's going to take time if it's even going to come, right? So there's only so much. We put the recourse. We say we have a unmet need, and hopefully it can get pushed out from the state DOC. We'll see where that goes, but it has been identified and we are working on it.
So to place a stop sign in a state road like that, you have to go through the state. The city couldn't put one up.
In the interest of public safety, I could just put something up, but that's a state responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions on Chief Charlie's report? Right, hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Item 3, I'll entertain a motion to accept Deputy Fire Chief Truck's reports.
So,
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Clark. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Oh, we just,
is he on?
is he on Zoom? Is he zooming in?
So actually, he's out doing some coordination with the Eversource crews at this time, so he is in his way here. But I think I committed him a little too close to the start of the meeting, so he's not here at this
That's
point.
okay. Just a quick question about equipment. All our equipment is fine, and as far as truck wise?
No, so truck 1 right now is out of service, and I apologize with all the commotion. I think get back to you. Right now, truck 1 looks like it's gonna be out of service in about a week. It had a failed radiator. Originally, it was a Cummins motor, so we were hopeful that it was gonna be a fairly quick fix and we'd just be able to get a stock radiator, but apparently it's a custom radiator, so they physically have to build the radiator for the truck. So we're probably looking, or they're telling us they're looking about a week on that. Engine 2 right now we have currently running in truck 1 slot as an aerial only. It does have a pump. The pump right now, it was identified, has intermittent issues. It's working, one of the control panels within the pump interlock is 9 out of 10 times it's fine, but there's a 10th time that it doesn't engage and it causes us problems and you have to reset it. So they are working on getting that replacement control board so that can be brought up as a pump. So currently right now, truck 1 is operational aerial only, no pumping capabilities, simply because we're not going to commit something that 10% of the time may not work. So it's not ideal, but we are working through solutions and trying to keep on top of it. Equipment maintenance is aggressively doing what they can. Unfortunately, when you get into these custom radiators, it's going to take time. So my understanding is the radiator, it was a plastic tank that cracked and failed. So the one that is going to replace it is going to actually have a copper tank that hopefully will withstand the heat pressures better and have better durability to it.
Other questions on DC truck reports? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, I'll entertain a motion to accept training officer Showcase reports.
So moved.
Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett, seconded by Commissioner Calvin. Any questions on the report? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, I'll entertain a motion to accept emergency management reports. Thank you, Commissioner Benedetto,
Second.
and second by Commissioner McLeod. Questions?
Just like one question on emergency management. People have medical issues with no power. You know, like have monitors at home. This question was asked to me, who do they contact?
So, depending on what the situation is and the thing, I'll use medical oxygen. A lot of people have, need supplemental oxygen through their first step should be reach out to their oxygen supplier to get some emergency deliveries in. Obviously, and we would say regardless of whether it's emergency or not, if someone's experiencing a medical emergency or feeling something, they should contact 911 and can get evaluated if they need additional hospital care. If it's just that they have a concern for their ability to maintain their oxygen, first step, they should really reach out to their oxygen provider to coordinate additional oxygen deliveries or supplemental, whether it be a battery powered concentrator or something like that. They should have some emergency plans in place to address their clientele. My hope is that those providers would have reached out already. We are working with area health and making contacts out into those vendors to just sort of touch base sort of where they're at and find out what the support is. If they're unable to get resolved to shelter at home, if they can locate a place where they can, temporarily reside, that's going to be the best case scenario for them and for us. And obviously, if they can't resolve an issue themselves, they should be reaching out, through public safety and emergency management. And we provide whatever support measures we can. Right now, obviously in the COVID environment, doing any sort of sheltering is very problematic, and the numbers and capacities that we actually have are very, very low. I do know that we started and we're going to be continuing a charging station out in front of City Hall, and we'll be maintaining that and sort of evaluating whether that's enough of a need. And if we need more of that, we'll obviously try to increase capacity there. So if someone has a battery backup and they need charging capabilities, that's one of the, we didn't just start those charging stations for phones and iPads, right? It was also more importantly for if we could do something for that, but we are monitoring that. We are generating lists as it gets available and doing outreach to try to identify people that are in that situation. Joel Sikorsky with the senior center had conversations with him this morning. He's actively, just because that elderly population is a good chunk of those medically vulnerable people, he's been actively reaching out to his clientele and those elderly populations to identify how they're doing. Right now, it sounds like the feedback we're getting is most people are in good shape for the next 1 to 2 days. So we are, that is on our list, and we are identifying what the need is and what support systems are in place. Ideally, at this point, the best case scenario is hopefully people are able to make sure that their support's in place so people can weather this outage at their residence. We're lucky this is happening in more temperate, right? It's not super hot during the day and it's not super cold at night, which it's not a fun experience. It's not anyone's first decision of how they want to spend the next couple days, but hopefully we can maintain their comfort and support people to stay within their primary residence as we get better feedback as far as what the long-term restoration efforts can really look like.
Thank you.
Floor is open. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll call a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, I'll entertain a motion to accept fire marshal's reports. Thank you, Commissioner McCollum.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Bennett. Questions on these reports? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, I'll entertain a motion to accept police chief Torrington's report.
So moved.
Commissioner Rivera,
Second.
and second Commissioner McLeod. Questions on this report?
Chief, I just have a quick question for you. I was reading through the reports and I may have misread it. It was one of the community report, community relations reports. Are you driving a Segway downtown? Because that's the way the report came out. It came out that you were driving and spending time downtown,
And your first time.
meeting with business people, and I'm going, no, he's not, come on. But I wasn't putting it past you, so I would have been surprised, so.
Do we have other questions? Right, before I move away from the report, I know that there was no portion for public comment. We were requesting the public to submit comments or questions in writing before the meeting. But I do see that Narana is there, and Narana, did you want to present something to Chief Baldwin?
You can present that picture now to the chief.
What you talking about?
Yes.
I didn't get what you said.
I know, it's
It's
hard.
your time to present the picture to the chief.
Okay, now I can hear.
Yeah.
What you say?
Now it's your time to present the picture to the chief. He's right here.
Oh, you don't need me. This is for you and your wife. And I hope that you might have a both of your couples. I'm opening now, Asian. The legal one is open like exactly the same. I did not come down. That's my name. They're both the same. They're both the same.
Nice job. Oh, that's 6 feet.
What is going to happen, but I like what may happen. I'm sure you got a nice picture green right. And this is the only side. That's all right. You'll be in there in a minute. That's the way they will be. It doesn't matter where you want to use it. You don't like it so much. You're the next man.
If they're as beautiful as that,
And
I'll
that's
take
so
it.
much time. No, that's what.
So much.
That's gonna look nice hanging in the living room.
Thank you. We're still on Chief Baldwin's report, I think, Commissioner Bennett, that everyone else.
Chief, question, I had a couple questions about fingerprint for pistol permits. Are they open again?
Yeah, we've been open now for the last several weeks. We started off at 3, because of the shutdown, because of the COVID situation, we had shut down. We reopened initially for 3 days a week. We then limited that down to 2 days a week, and now we're back down to our regular 1 day per week, which is Wednesdays. People who need to have their prints taken have been instructed to sign up online, so we have slots that are filled specifically for individuals that need to have it. That's it.
Thank you.
Before I call the motion, any other questions? We can't top it in a row, bit. Sorry, guys and girls. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, I'll entertain a motion to accept Officer Brzezowski's traffic operations unit report.
Mayor, can I make a motion real quick? Can we go back to the fire marshal's report? I forgot to ask a question.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
For we mentioned the fire marshal report. There's the Torrington house, the 403 Torrington West Street house. I've received questions from the public about what is being done with that house. Does it eventually get torn down, or is it still part of the investigation? Does whatever happens with the house pending the result of the investigation? So I'm going to relay that back.
It really depends. I mean, that would, the homeowner and insurance company has time to address the situation. Obviously, if something doesn't get done, eventually you'll get referred to, or end up into the part of the flight if.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that one. So the insurance company has been in touch with the city of Torrington. This was a blighted piece of property before the fire. It continues to be a blighted piece of property, and funds continue to accrue. But we have received communication from the insurance company that within 60 days, the house will be, what's left of the house will be torn down. There's the intention to fill in the lot and seed it. So it's my understanding that that is what's been communicated to Corporation Counsel's office. Of course, there still continues to be the matter of the blight liens, which have been accruing on that piece of property for months. And it would be the municipality. As a matter of fact, a foreclosure action has already been commenced on behalf of the city to collect those fines or take possession of the lot.
Thank you.
All right. So then I was still working on a motion to accept Officer Brzezowski's traffic operations unit.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman. And second by Commissioner McElroy. Questions on the report?
Just Chief, go back to the stop sign thing. Is it the responsibility of the traffic division to put those signs up,
Yes.
or is it the street department?
Traffic division generally does our signage, so that would be David's responsibility.
So, what we need to do is look at how many we have and
Yeah, we're actually, myself and Chief Talley had discussed that as part of from the MS regional coordination effort. We do have some potential grant funds available to purchase signs such as this proto stop signs. The issue with that, which is that it would be a regional asset. Being a regional asset, because we have such a large area of that's affected by the storm, several of the towns within the region would be more than likely acquiring these stop signs. So,
same with barricades.
yes.
Thank you.
Other questions on the traffic report? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, I'll entertain a motion to accept the EMS provider activity reports.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner McElroy. Second by Commissioner McLeod. Questions on the report? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, I'll entertain a motion to consider business by the volunteer fire department.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Banjero.
Second.
And second by Commissioner McLeod. The floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The floor is open. Chief Mathis?
Last month was our annual meeting that we usually do, and of course with COVID, we didn't invite everyone. Deputy Chief Tripp came up and swore in our officers. We have basically the same slate of officers. I'm myself as chief. Our captain is Tom Wilson, and our president is Kelsey Schaefer, and our vice president Mike Whitaker. And so, we're trying to move forward. A little bit about the storm yesterday. Drakeville responded to approximately 15 calls for treating wires down just in the Drakeville area, or what we could get to of the Drakeville area. We were kind of the fire protection for that area for yesterday, because Torrington trucks would not have been able to get to that area most of the night. So we were there, we were able to give that service. We hope to continue to be able to do so.
Questions for the chief?
I just have a quick question, just wondering, how does Marshall Lake Road today?
Last I saw it, it was completely closed in 2 different locations. But when I was coming down here, I heard that the Eversource and Public Works Department were heading that direction just before I came to the meeting. So.
Torrington.
We have done, they're pretty quiet.
Thank you. All right, item number 11. I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the purchasing agent and Lieutenant Thomas Bruno to approve the award of partial bids for the police department unions to New England Uniforms LLC of Danbury, Connecticut for the annualized estimate of $63,858.50 and to ODS Technologies Inc. of Cheshire, Connecticut for the annualized estimate of $1,981 as described in Lieutenant Bruno's memo dated July 16, 2020. Do I have a motion? Second, Commissioner Belvoir and Commissioner Allen. I won't confuse that voice with this.
I'm going to mention that later.
The floor is open for questions.
Chief, I have a question, my normal question. I respect how much work everybody does to put in for these, but why did we choose one over the other on both bids? Now, I'm going to ask the rest of the board now. I keep asking this question, and my statute of limitations is about 5 years now, so I think it's run out, and we don't get this every time. I'll stop asking if nobody else cares. If we're not going to get the information on why we choose one for the other, then why do we even get to vote on it? Just buy it. We always have the answer when we come to the meeting, and I'm not saying it's not always the police department, it's anybody. We always have the answers when we ask the questions, but in my opinion, that should be in the report, and it just never is. And to me, it's a simple answer. It doesn't have to be this long, protracted explanation. If it's only the price, I'm good with it. That's okay. But I think, for everybody, that should be in the reports that we get. We chose this one because of that. And I mean, I saw that 3 of them were kicked out because of whatever, clerical errors or whatever. I'm just curious on why, the OGS was picked for this and then the other was picked for the other one. It's just never explained.
A lot of it has to do with cost savings, and you answered part of your question is that our purchasing agent down in the finance department basically runs the bid process for us. So if these companies do not meet the requirements of the bid or they fail to submit the proper paperwork, by charter, I believe, they're automatically eliminated from the bid process. Currently with New England Uniform, they are our current vendor. They currently have the uniform types that we specifically wear or we utilize. They have the ability to do our patches and our embroideries, and that's just a company that was decided upon through the purchase.
Like I said, I'm good with that answer. I don't want to have to ask it every meeting. That's all. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? To me, those should be. I don't know, Mayor. You could answer me. I just feel it should be in the report, whether it comes from the purchasing agent with the report or it comes from the department. I think there should be an explanation.
Sure.
On record for that, because otherwise, the only record of why we chose it is if we ask the question or not ask the question.
Great. So this report that I'm holding up was the letter from Penny Zuko. That we received it in.
There's so much paperwork in this.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. So I assumed that you were not getting these where it shows who the bidders were.
No,
and you.
I only printed the one page. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but.
Okay. So then, perhaps going forward with these, the purchasing agents, as the chief has identified, is essentially just looking to make sure that they've met all of the requirements of the bid, did they submit their non-collusion affidavit? Did they provide the addendum? So she's really just checking for the not the pro forma, the legal requirements to complete the bid. I think this would be where we would probably look to the memo that was prepared by Lieutenant Below, and maybe in that memo he could include why his recommendation is specifically for this. And I will say that there are times where it isn't about the price. The lowest bid isn't always the best. And this board has seen that and questioned it in the past. So maybe just moving forward, if we could just have whomever is working on the purchases, we could just work on that.
Even if it's just, if there's 5 categories you're looking at, and and this company has 5 check marks, and the other one has 2, something simple, not looking for a book here.
Even if it's just a narrative that says,
Yeah, it could be a
New
look.
England Uniforms is our vendor of record, and their turnaround time is always the best, and that's
Absolutely, something very simple, but
Yeah.
just why?
No, I think that's a reasonable request.
Chief, on the 2 bids, the 2 bids that we were using, is there a reason that New England Uniforms doesn't have the stuff that OGS has?
And it had to do with a cost analysis, it was more cost effective to split the bid up. OGS would be providing badges, insignias, things along that line, whereas New England Uniform will be supplying the clothing aspect and any other equipment.
So they wouldn't do better if you buy more? Cody?
Other questions on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 12, I'll entertain a motion to consider business by department heads.
So moved.
Commissioner Bennett.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McLeod. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go back to you, Chief.
I think I'd just start off with, on behalf of the members of the Torrington Fire Department, just to express sincere condolences to the Conforti family. As I'm sure the entire board, it was a loss that was really felt by our members, and we appreciate what he had done for us and his support over the years, and our hearts, our thoughts and prayers remain with the family as they grieve. So I just wanted to start off with that. It's been a very busy time frame for us, both on the fire department and the emergency management side. So appreciate the board's support. We've been trying to stay on top of the outreach and keep you guys abreast of stuff as it comes up. Obviously, as it got busy, there's stuff that may have slipped through the cracks, but we continue to try to make sure we're making sure you guys are informed of what's going on. I'm incredibly proud of my crews that have responded to anything thrown before them. They always step up and respond, and I'm thankful for their efforts. Throughout this period, there have been several situations, even going back to January, that we felt warrants notorious recognition and awards. And we do have those, we're compiling those, and we continue to generate those efforts. But I do want to make sure that those efforts are recognized in a situation where we can have everyone here and we can bring in the families and sort of recognize those efforts for what they are. And that, that also includes support from our other departments. We've had people stepping up from, the Trinity ambulance. There's been situations where they've really stepped up, and we want to recognize their efforts. And the volunteer fire departments with the increased call loads and stuff, appreciate their support and continuing to work with them. I'd be remiss with the truck situations right now. We currently have Torrington's engine in our firehouse operating as a reserve call. And I'm just thank you for everyone's efforts. I think everyone's really stepped up. We're hoping for a quiet period, but it seems like we're going to be busy for a little clip moving forward. And thank you for your support.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions to the Chief? Hi, Chief Baldwin, anything?
Again, again, to echo Chief Towley's comments about Commissioner Conforti, he was a true asset to the city, his board, to both departments, and he is truly going to be missed. His expertise and the advice that he's given us, he's going to be a big loss. And I think we've all felt that at this point, and we will continue to feel that. This person has big shoes to fill when it comes to his position. So, again, our deepest condolences to Commissioner Conforti's family. I also want to offer publicly our deepest condolences to the Socasi family. Many people here on this board know Sergeant Phil Socasi, who served 36 years with the Torrington Police Department. There's no question that he was a legend for this city, for this department. And again, our deepest condolences to his wife Maureen, his son Billy, and the rest of his family on that death as well. July's been a very busy month for us. We've had numerous incidences of relatively serious nature, to include robbery, include burglaries. We've had a fatal accident in the month of July. We've had with the fire marshals on different fire cases. We've had some drug-related issues, and we continue to have overdoses that continue to be a problem in our area. Officers continue to do an excellent job in their investigations and bring some of these cases to a conclusion. Several arrests have been made in some of these high-profile cases, and I have reached out to the board on some of these cases as far as things that are taking place in our town. I also want to talk about the pistol permit that you already brought up, the pistol permits. And we are currently down 14 people in my department as a result of vacancies and injuries. It's been challenging to fill shifts. There have been individuals who have been moved from different positions to backfill the patrol force so that we can continue to provide the services that we do. We're in the process coming up in this next week of conducting interviews for potential candidates for our job here for some of the vacancies here at the department. We're also in the process of trying to analyze and figure out what the new police accountability law is going to be for our department and for police departments across the state. Regardless of what some of the people are saying about the law, saying that it is not an anti-police department, not an anti-police department law, I can tell you that it's absolutely an anti-law enforcement law. It's going to cost the city, there's many mandates within this law that is going to cost the city significant sums of money that are unfunded, specifically CALEA certification. By enacting that part of the law, they've pretty much eliminated and made null and void state accreditation certification to be pretty much zero. CALEA certification, just as an offset, just so that the board may be aware of the increase in the impact this is going to have on the police budget, is initially going to cost about $50,000 to start, and then for $4,000 to $5,000 annually after certification. That's one thing. That doesn't, with CALEA, there's hundreds and hundreds of regulations that have to be followed by our department. And if we do not adhere to those regulations, we won't be certified, which will mean it will be a violation of the state statute. This could be extremely expensive. If, for example, they say, an example that I give is if they look at our cell blocks and they say that our cell blocks are antiquated and need to be upgraded, that can cost into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for the city to upgrade our cell blocks. The other part of this bill is the mental health screening. Part of that, I'm going to have to conservatively budget anywhere between $5,000 to $1,000 per officer, which will increase my budget from $40,000 to $80,000 per mandate. So again, there's a lot of costs associated with this. There's some good things about the bill, and I'm not going to disparage it. Any of the good things that result to some of the trainings that they want to do, some of the, obviously, the attempt to bring in a more diversified police department. We're all in favor of that, but unfortunately, I think they rushed this bill through the legislature too fast without taking the appropriate time to analyze the impact that this is going to have on law enforcement and the communities that these law enforcement agencies serve. Additionally, the qualified immunity aspect of it, while they say that it's still intact, they've actually they've weakened that qualified immunity for officers. They also now have to rewrite the use of force statutes and the use of force, excessive use of force, to what we've been trained over decades and decades of law enforcement training. That is now, as one attorney who had tried to decipher what this bill means, what the state did, in essence, is legislative hesitation. And unfortunately, there are many police chiefs who feel that this law is going to cause significant injuries to officers going forward. There is some hope that our legislature will try to enact amendments in the next session to kind of review some of the things that are associated with this law. And we're hoping that some of these are enacted. I do want to give credit to the mayor who reached out to our legislative representatives in opposition to the bill. Not all of it, but parts of the bill. And I also want to give credit to our representative, Michelle Cook, who also opposed the bill in favor of law enforcement, recognizing that we all recognize that there is a need for some change. But Connecticut's system has been has done very well over the last several years. And our system, while there's always improvement, and we've been evolving and improving over the years, it didn't need to go to this drastic of a level. So there are going to be some issues. I've been in conferences with the Chiefs Associations. We have attorneys that have been hired by the CPCA, which is the Police Chiefs Association, who are trying to decipher this. We also have attorneys in the training aspect of it that are trying to decipher exactly what this law is going to mean and represent for our department and our agency moving forward. So there is going to be changes. There's no question about it. As to how these changes affect the officers, it remains to be seen. But it's going to be a very interesting. We're living in interesting times, and unfortunately, I think this is going to be a hindrance to the way we do things. But regardless, our department in the city, they continue to step up, they continue to do their job, and they continue to do what's required of them. The other aspect of it is that I want to mention is the dash cams that have now been made into law. While I agree that dash cams are a great tool for our department, that is going to be another cost that is going to be taken upon by the city. There is going to be some reimbursement, some federal assistance for the distressed cities, and I don't want to say, and I don't mean this flippantly when I say, well, fortunately, Torrington's a distressed city, because we don't want to hear that about our city. But the fact of the matter is we will be able to stand a little bit better as far as getting some funding to put these dash cameras in the cruisers, which will also include, if I read the statute correctly, which also is going to include our animal control vehicles as well. This bill does not account for the storage, the equipment, and all the other things that are going to be part of the retention of the dash cams. We were fortunate the board again very wisely approved the Axon contract, so we're more than likely going to be able to interact with them, and there may be cost savings with us concerning that. So these are things that we have to consider. Some of these things are going to be enacted by April of next year, so these are things we have to start moving forward. The other thing about CALIA by the standard is that that's going to require each department, including my department, I'm going to have to hire, I'm going to have to make command staff individual full-time CALIA person. So I'm going to have to promote another individual to that position, because quite frankly, I can't afford to take a command staff or supervisory individual out of their current roles and positions to make them a full-time CALIA representative to ensure that we are in compliance with the federal government. So this is going to be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be more talk about it with myself and the board, and we are again. Again, like I said, there's some good things about the bill, but quite frankly, there's a lot of it in there that's going to cause some significant issues for not only my department, but for departments statewide. So That's it on a somber note, but other than that, I can say that our department should be very proud of the men and women that serve in this department, and they continue to step forward and do a very good job. So,
Chief, I just have a question on storage of the body cams. How long do we keep that footage now?
it's generally, I'll be honest, I want to say that we keep it indefinitely, but I'm not going to give, I can't make that concrete. I can get that answer for you, but we do retain this footage for a period of time. If specific pieces of footages are had, we keep that for forever until we no longer need it. Especially as it relates to criminal complaints or not criminal complaints, but cases that are being held in criminal court. We'll hold that for evidentiary purposes, and eventually, once that case is adjudicated, that can be eliminated. But for the most part, we have enough storage to be able to hold our body camera footage for extended periods.
I know it's very expensive to store that footage, and was it in the bill that you have to hold it longer?
I'm not quite sure.
Sure about that. Okay.
Yeah, just if I could comment on that, I know we discussed that when we approved the body cameras originally. And I know at the time the question came up, and I know that groups that, I don't want to say oppose the body cameras, no. And it was part of the deal, I believe, the fact that they didn't want police departments holding them forever because then they would use it for other reasons other than what they were used for originally. I know some of I don't know if it's ACLU or whatever, was very concerned on how long that was kept. You know, and when you had a case and you used it, you had to keep it through the entire legal process, that was okay. And they were really against and wanted laws, and I don't know where it stands, that once that was over, get rid of it so it couldn't be used again. And I think that was more of a big city thing than a local, but I don't know where that stands today.
There's still archival laws where we after a period of time we limit we can't think of the word on top of it. Where we redact or get rid of files. Files are held for a period of time, and then they're reviewed, and then they're shredded and eliminated. So there's still, the footage that is captured through what our officers do. There's state statute. There's still regulations that prohibit us from just quickly giving it out. There's still FOIA laws. There's still regulations that have to be followed as a related. Not just anybody can review this video footage. There's a process that's involved for anybody to do that. There may be those situations where some of this footage may be utilized as a training model or a training method for departments. That could be potentially used, but again, a lot of this stuff has to be done through the court system. It's not just through our legal counsel before we can just give that out.
Other questions on the chief's report?
Prior to I appreciate the conversation you and I had about a week and a half ago about the police accountability bill, but prior to the legislative vote, did any of our 5 representatives between the House and the Senate reach out to you for your input on the bill?
Yes.
All right, I'm very appreciative for Senator Witkos who tried to stop the bill in the Senate, and very appreciative of Representative Cook's no vote on that as well. But as her leadership role in the House, I would appreciate some further input from her members to potentially stop the bill as well. I think it could be a huge detriment upon our civil servants. One thing that I'm definitely concerned with as well, I mean, I've heard from friends who are on the police force, not just in Torrington, but across other municipalities as well, that they're concerned about what their longevity with the force would be now, with them having to carry some sort of liability insurance. And as I look at that from just a fiduciary standpoint, as a municipal official, is that they're going to get passed on to the taxpayers of Torrington? Are we going to have to then carry the burden of whatever liability insurance that they may have to carry? Right, wrong, or indifferent, but that's kind of one of the pieces of the legislation that I think has been overlooked.
You're 100% right. I mean, the liability insurance officers starting off at their current rates out aren't going to be able to afford liability insurance. And I don't know what they would call it, but just for the sake of argument, liability insurance. The city does already indemnify officers, and through our insurance carrier. But by the same token, you're right, officers won't be able to afford insurance, or if they can be insured at all. That may be another issue where insurance companies may not take that on. Because there's just so many loose ends associated with this, with the excessive use of force guidelines. So it is going to be a problem. And just, you mentioned Senator Minor also supported or opposed the bill. And they, Representative Cook did her best with her caucus to make a very strong argument against the bill. But unfortunately, there was a majority voting in the other direction.
Thank you. I'm also thinking about it from a macroeconomic side of things, that some of the other people in town who are in support of the bill say that when you go to see a doctor, they're carrying malpractice insurance, but at the same time, when you go see a doctor, you're paying $400 a visit, less whatever insurance negotiates along the way, so there's the macroeconomic side of those things. If that transposes over to what the cost would be for our police officers to do their job, I mean, their starting pay is not going to cover whatever the liability, or called liability insurance for argument's sake at this point, will not be able to cover that. I'm greatly concerned about what the ultimate burden is going to be to the Torrington taxpayer as a result of this bill.
I mean, you can see in some of the, just in general, with what's going on nationwide, law enforcement officials, because of this anti-law enforcement agenda that seems to be out there, they are taking a step back. And unfortunately, what we're concerned about as administrators is the is police officers becoming reactionary instead of proactive. Law enforcement in general has always been a proactive entity where they've gone out and they've done things in the community, they've done things through investigations to be able to prevent crime. Now with this kind of a bill, and this kind of a potential liability, officers may step back and be reactive versus proactive. So that could be a potential issue. We are seeing that in some areas of the state. We're seeing crimes being significantly increased in the Haven, Hartford area, and statewide crimes are on an uptick of violent crimes. We don't know what the cause is, and you can assume many different things. But the fact is that crime is not going down; it's starting to trend upward. And this isn't the time now to tie the hands of law enforcement officers. Well, proponents of the bill will tell you that it makes it better. Quite honestly, that's the opposite in the opinion of many.
Well, as you use the description of reactionary along the way, I personally believe that this bill is a reactionary to everything going on publicly nationwide, as opposed to doing the thorough research that this absolutely warranted. I'm not saying that a bill like this may or may not have been needed along the way, but do the research prior to putting this in a rush mode.
As I stated, Connecticut has, we take misconduct very seriously in the state, we always have. And I think that we brought the problem to the state. The state didn't have that problem. We have this great system in place where outside agencies will conduct investigations, where the state attorney's office does review each individual case of any kind of misconduct, where the state's attorney will, outside of any influence by the law enforcement agency, will make that determination as to whether or not a law is violated. And they do take the appropriate actions associated with misconduct of any kind. So again, the system is not broken, but I think they're making it. And understand that this is Chief Baldwin's opinion, based on my research and my experience over the years, and my conversations with my colleagues in this field. Again, there are people that will argue against what I'm saying all day long. By the same token, the reality is it is not a friendly bill for us.
Thank you.
I just have one comment, and I've been on this board for quite a while, and I think in Torrington, 99% of our guys are good, they do their job, they do it well, we don't have that issue here, so it's a liability point, we have liability every day on the police department, but I don't think it's going to be an issue in the city. It has been in a long time, so I don't think we'll see it here. But you can just train.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Just one quick question. When we approved the contract for the body cameras and the storage space, if I remember correctly, one of the good selling points of it was that we had tons of storage space. Is the technology the same with the dashboard cameras? And, can we use that storage space with it, or don't we know that yet?
No, again, we're gonna have to go, we're gonna have to look and see, we're gonna have to go out to bid and find out, you know, or, you know, we're gonna have to find out who we're going to utilize for our dash cams. The wise thing would be to use Axon because they provide dash cams in addition to body cams. And they would be able to interact any type of storage related issues with our dash cams into our current template.
I just remember that was a big selling point. That we have so much space. Let's do this. And,
But now when you're adding all these cameras, that's gonna suck up
Sure,
all the
sure.
stress.
but it might help us. But we're looking for anything here.
And I also would like to comment about the bill. I also was a little bit, disappointed with some of the legislation or requirements that they placed in the bill. I thought we should have done it a little bit differently, and I thought also we should have, as you said, took a little bit more time, reflected, study the cases, analyze the, different situations, look at different departments across the country, and look at what they were doing, or how they were doing it, before just rushing the bill through. I also feel that it's going to be a little bit of a problem for our departments. But I definitely am in support of our departments. As Mr. Vettel said, I really don't see that being an issue with Torrington. And we're hoping that as we have more discussions and we take a breath, step back, that we will maybe make some changes to that bill. We hope that we say, I think.
One more comment in regards to the cameras as well. Within the legislation, it notes that there is grants available for municipalities that will also need the body cameras, the dashboard cameras. As we're already ahead of the game with the body cameras, will we get retroactive grants available to us, or is this just punitive upon us because we are ahead of the game?
Yeah, those are.
And actually, our body cameras were purchased under a grant. So the first rush to get body cameras in municipalities, Torrington did take advantage of that.
Thank you.
The cameras were cheap, it was the storage.
The storage is what is expensive, and we were fortunate. It was a well-negotiated contract with Axon because tasers came with the body cameras, and these companies know where the money is. It's in storage. It's that long-term cost, not the short-term investment.
Renewals.
We're still under department head reports, Deputy Chief.
I just want to apologize for my tardiness. I was actually working, coordinating efforts between the fire, police, every source, and public works. I can say as it pertains that Marshall Lake Road is now open all the way to the field. So that's all open. More of our roads open all the way to Ocean. So they're starting to make the list. We created a list today. We have people on the field, and they're actually taking our list. I talked to the Eversource guys, and we are directed to take that list and pick. So it's basically just open roads, maybe take it safe. It's not power stuff. So it was like people are gonna get their own stuff, they're getting power, they're not. So the roads. And the other operation roads, I just want to thank the volunteers, Commissioner. Carried them out the Colorado weekend and offered 17 because we knew that we could drop down service. So, and we actually, had a unit yesterday. So I want to thank Torrington and Drakeville for inviting me, helping them out in their services that they're doing in Drakeville. They were going to isolate it yesterday, we couldn't get to them. They had to go all the way around the university. They did a great job holding their own up there, checking on these wires, but we couldn't get to it. And on the third note, in Trinity, we started some joint training again with the training division for Jeff and his efforts. So it's good to see that we're going to be working with Trinity again, about once a month we're planning on at least, with all the shifts we're working together, so it's good stuff happening.
Questions for Deputy Chief? Thank you. All right, we'll move into item 13, I'll entertain a motion to consider business by the mayor and member of the board of public safety.
So moved.
Commissioner Castro. Second, Commissioner Clark. All in favor? Any opposed? We're open to my right, Commissioner Finley.
Thank you, chiefs and everybody for all the response over the past couple of days. It's been trying, you can imagine. This commission's not gonna be the same without Bob. Commissioner Conforti was a friend. He was somebody who was a big advocate for me coming on board with this, and I'm so grateful for him to be a part of that. Torrington's a better place because of him, because of his love for the town. He's so looking forward to his retirement. Sad that him and his wife couldn't take full advantage of it, so it's going to be a miss. I also want to apologize, Mayor, for the next meeting. I'll be absent. My wife is due on September 2nd, so I guess that's the reason not for me not to come. So.
No excuse.
That's nice.
Commissioner Clark.
I'd also like to send my condolences to the Conforti family. I'd like to thank the volunteers for all their work that they did during the storm. I still get complaints on the Sun Street issue with the tractor trailers blocking Prospect Street and everything. Did we come to a conclusion there's really not much we can do at this time? In fact, I just want to report back to the people that have checked into it. There's nothing else we can really do. Also, I noticed on Hillendale Boulevard, somebody struck a speed limit sign, knocked it to the ground. So we're probably going to replace that. And I just wanted to thank the fire department and the police department of Trinity for all the hard work that they do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Benjamin.
Yes, first of all, my condolences to the Conforti family. I worked with Bob for the last 7 years on this board, and his heart and soul was in the city of Torrington, so he'll definitely be missed on this board, so my condolences. And on the storm issues, thank the police, fire department, volunteers, Trinity. You guys all stepped up as usual. It was a tough one. I heard the calls come in, one after the other. And I think we're well prepared as far as we need some equipment, but as far as the guys doing the job, it was good. I think we have to work more on getting the volunteers, more volunteers involved with issues, because I think Torrington could have covered East End pretty well with some, the calls coming in. I don't know how involved they were, but I'm sure we're going to talk about it at the next volunteer. But Trinity, thank you for your service to stay here too. And thanks for the picture for the chief. You always support the police and fire department, ambulance service in the city of Torrington, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
I'd just like to start and thank both chiefs and their departments for everything that they do. Not only yesterday, but every day. We're very, very lucky in this city to have both departments. We used to complain that we didn't get information that we expected from both chiefs. Now we get it during incident. Not the next day, we get it during. It's really appreciated. I just want to touch on a couple of things. I just want to touch on the police issue again. It's good to see that we're ahead of the curve with the body cameras. That was a good thing. I have to make this one comment. We're also ahead of the curve with the funding of police, because we cut a police deputy chief a few years ago. In my opinion, that's the funding of police. The other morning, I was getting up to go to work, and I saw the text to go to rehab, and I knew where it was, and it was not the outcome that I expected at all, obviously. I knew Bob for about 50 years. We were social friends, but we knew each other for a long, long time through Torrington and everything, and I enjoyed very much having him sit to my right on the board for the 7 years that we're here. We talked constantly, we text all the time. we didn't always agree. On a lighter note, I don't know if anybody here has ever noticed it, but the mayor had no clue whether it was Bob or I ever making a motion or second. And I did it tonight, with the first one the mayor didn't see it, we would, either one of us would just, when we made a motion, we'd raise our hand. And she'd look over, and it confused the heck out of her, she accused us of throwing our voices at everything else, you know, so on a lighter note, I'm gonna still kind of do that with looking at it just because I think it's not to happen anyway. But it's a little surreal, right? It's very different. I don't know what else to say on that. So.
Well, no. Commissioner,
I also am going to this file. This on the board, we also on town committee. You know, we will talk sometime after meetings. It is definitely surreal. We really appreciate his thoughtfulness, his commitment to Torrington. So it's you know, a little bit emotional. I want to thank the chiefs and all volunteers and everybody for the work that they did during the storm, during this whole COVID situation that we seem to be getting one thing after another, but I really appreciate your efforts and the job that you do and taking care of Torrington for us.
yeah, thank you. I'll just add a couple of things that I can, and especially after you started about the little tricks and signals you were able to give me. It is very hard for me. He was a friend and a gentleman and the kind of board member that was so professional. Just grateful to have had the opportunity to work with him on this board. So heartbroken for his family. Just switch gears. This police accountability bill, when we talk about the cost to the city, when Chief Baldwin sat down with me earlier this week, it just started ticking off what are the things that would be on the radar or may be on our radar, and how will this impact next year's budget. And I shared with them that I had in front of me a 6-page letter from Kerma, that is our insurer, and they're already identifying how they're going to have to provide additional insurance. Insurance insures against the risk. You know, the likelihood of it happening has nothing to do with the risk. So that's where those additional costs are coming in. This is something we'll be talking about, and I suspect we'll go into the next legislative session, because there must be some relief for the municipalities for these mandates. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to identify what those are and advocate effectively. Just want to talk a little bit about when we talk about COVID and our response, and Chief Talley and Chief Baldwin, actually everybody in this room, you know, Trinity, have been incredible at Public Works Department in helping us identify, you know, what is that next executive order? How does that impact us? How does that impact our pivoting and our continuity of operations plan, our COOP? So needless to say, the recent travel ban has created some additional challenges for us. Yes, we do have members of our departments and employees in the city that do have summer plans that will be traveling to those other states. Their travel does not trigger the Families First Coronavirus Act coverage. So it's, again, you think maybe you're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then there's this added twist that then we have to think about, how does that impact staffing? How does that impact overtime? I have to give credit to the chiefs, because they have been ahead of this. They're already identifying and communicating to their staff how important it is to abide by those travel bans when you can, and when you can't, identifying how we're going to meet the mandate of quarantine. Those were Casey, Santa, and I didn't really know him as well as a police officer, but I know him as Santa. And I do think it's a tremendous loss, and heartbroken for his family as well. I guess that's really all that I have this evening. I can just also share, I did leave the Conforti wake last night and went right down to the Emergency Operations Center. And just to be a fly on the wall to watch the rapid fire, those calls are coming in and they're being put up on the screen and the radios are buzzing and police officer Abram that was in the room with us, I mean, they're like, I'm in my car, I'm gonna go out there and check that call out, I'm gonna determine whether it's involved wires, is it just the tree? And the coordination was what I found the most remarkable. Bill Maris from our street department was there, and the EOC also had the street department on radio. They were then communicating to all of the public works employees. If it didn't involve wires, they were in there, they were clearing those trees out where they could. It was remarkable. It was the most well-oiled machine. I did stop down to the street department after I left the EOC just to express my gratitude. Those guys were soaking wet. It was only 65 degrees. They were tired. They were hungry. And I think that just sort of sums up what response our employees give to us. So when anybody asks about their taxpayers' dollars, that's what they need to see. All of that happening. Professionally practiced and well orchestrated. So with that, I see no further business before the board, and I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Benedict.
Second.
And second, Commissioner Park. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.